to London.
Hello, this is London Patton interviewing Cassie Hughes. Cassie, I just have a few questions for you today.
Sure.
Starting off, could you explain to us your role at the Rosie the Riveter World War II Homefront National Historical Park?
Yeah. So my title is Education Technician, and what that means is I'm like the education lead at the park. So that takes the form of field trips for fourth graders. That's a large part of my job, but it also involves any education like our Junior Ranger program. So when kids come in and they fill out the Junior Ranger books and then they get a badge, that's considered part of education. Also education of our volunteers. And I do that with our kind of volunteer coordinator staff member. So it's education of staff and it's education of school groups, but also education of families that are coming in. And besides the fourth graders that we see as a field trip that we are organizing, we also see a lot of schools coming through with all different ages. And I'm talking to those teachers and I'm helping them create the materials that they're using when they bring their kids in and following up and then hoping that they bring their classes the following years. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would also like to know, how did you get connected with the Rosie the Riveter site specifically? How did you decide you wanted to get involved with the National Park Service, and how did you choose Rosie specifically?
Rosie chose me. I think I wanted to work for the Park Service for a very long time. It was hard to get in when I tried to get in about 15 years ago, which I guess shows my age. And then I lived in the area, and I'd been here actually when I was doing my teacher training to get my master's in education and credential. We came here on a field trip when we were studying U.S. history and how to teach U.S. history for like California history for fourth graders. So they brought us here, and we heard Mary and Suzette, one of our Rosies, speak. And even before that, I had heard Betty Reed Soskin speak at a gala in San Francisco for an organization I used to work for, Nature Bridge. So I'd wanted to work for the Park Service for a long time, and then I worked for Park Service partner organizations. So when I worked for Nature Bridge, they're a partner of the Park Service. They're in Golden Gate National Recreation Area and outside DC, and down in Santa Monica Mountains and Olympic. And so I worked directly with Park Service. So I had a pretty good understanding of how the Park Service worked based on that, but I was on the outside. And then post-pandemic, I had kids, I had my teaching credential, and it was a kind of a leap of faith thing of like, hey, what if I just did the Park Service? And so I applied, and then this one was on offer, which is pretty incredible because I live probably like 5 miles away. And that was a seasonal position, which is often how a lot of people start, and those are 6-month positions, and then you have to take 6 months off, and then you can do another 6-month stint, and you have to do that for a total of 2 years before you can even apply to many jobs that are out there in the Park Service. So you have to kind of pay your dues. So I did that for 2 seasons, and then they advertised the education technician job, and I was familiar with a lot of that work already because I've been doing it as a seasonal ranger, and then I started this job basically a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you enjoy it?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a trick question.
Well, what might have been some of the most successful and or impactful educational initiatives or programs you've developed or led at the park? Whether that be with the fourth graders that come by specifically, whether that be with teenagers of all ages, whether that be specifically at the park, field trips, visiting schools. What would you say?
The most impactful?
Yeah.
It's funny, sometimes the smallest things can be the most impactful. So with our Junior Ranger program, it's a pretty hefty booklet that takes a while for kids to fill out, and a lot of kids don't get through it. And it also requires you, it's geared towards older kids, age 5 and up. So they have to do a lot of writing and quite a bit of reading. So that kind of excludes younger kids. And we also see with that program that kids are sitting down with their parent and filling it in, and they're not walking around and they're not looking at the exhibits that much. So I'm actually currently reviewing if we want to change that. Now is probably not the right time with a lot of funding. Yeah. Oh yeah. But I started a little Junior Ranger. So we did a photo scavenger hunt. And so that is at the front desk sitting right next to it. So when families walk in, we say, oh, do you want to, if we see a little kid, okay, the idea was if we saw a little kid, do you want to do the little junior ranger? And that's been working really well. What we've also seen is, oh, a family just came in yesterday from Germany. They don't speak English. Hey, do you want to do this photo scavenger hunt? You don't need the language skills to be able to do this.
Yeah.
So the girls were older, but they also could do it, and they got the badge. And they didn't have to say the pledge because they couldn't speak English, but their parents translated a little bit for them. So what's been cool is that I thought it was just going to be for preschoolers, but it's actually been, and it's for kids who have special needs. They have trouble reading. They have trouble, with the pencil grip and writing and doing some of these smaller motor skills that are required in that book. So instead, they feel like they completed it, and they feel that sense of accomplishment. They get that badge. They had that engagement with the park. They were interested. They feel confident about what they did. But it's not that big booklet that we were kind of telling everyone else, if you want that badge, you have to do this book, and you have to get a certain amount of points. This doesn't have that pressure, and it also has them actually engaging with the site and looking at things. And some of the photos are up high, of things up high, some are down low. So sometimes kids said, oh yeah, I really had trouble finding that one. But the parent is also going along with them. So it's an intergenerational education experience. So that's actually been really impactful, and I didn't anticipate that. And that's, just visitors that are walking in terms of programs where we're trying to get people to come in, the fourth grade field trips by far. I mean, it was almost 1,000 kids this year. And we've been running that program for years and years. It's been really fun to see, since I've now been here, two school years. So I've seen some of the same teachers again, and we made some changes this year. And so I checked in with all those teachers saying, how did it feel this year? And they were saying, I really like the changes you made. It's more engaging. It's more hands-on. Because the previous year what we were hearing from teachers was, yeah, this is great and we love coming here, but listen, like it needs to be more engaging for these kids. They can't just sit and listen. They're supposed to walk around and do this booklet, but they're just not staying engaged with it. So instead we have them engaging more with the stories of actual people who were living here during World War II and what they did. And all these stories were gathered when they created this park, and they're all over in those little mannequins. So they're reading those stories, and then they're talking to each other about it. And then when we come back to the classroom at the end of their time, it's pretty cool hearing the kids say like, oh, I love that story about that little boy, or I really like that story. And they're actually remembering the stories, and they resonate with them. A lot of kids are liking the story of Mateo, whose dad is off at war and his mom is a nurse and she's never home, so he's with the grandma. And a lot of the kids are like, oh, I really felt for Mateo. And it's great because they're showing empathy. They're also relating to someone that's back in time, and it's Richmond. It's their Richmond. So they're seeing it in a different way. So that's been really fun, seeing them make those personal connections.
That is great. That is great. Okay. Well, what do you think, not just children, but adults as well, what do you think amazes people or surprises people the most when they come to learn about the history here? Whether that be the history itself, the items that they see, what do you think?
A lot of people walk in and they know Rosie the Riveter. That kind of gets them in the door, right? So they know that, although a lot of people don't know who that is, so they do a lot of, some people walk in and they say, where's Rosie? And actually they're thinking of Betty Reed Soskin. So she was another big draw. But, so I think they're kind of surprised to learn that there's not this one place where there was just these few women doing this thing, but it was nationwide. Yeah. And that there were lots of women working, and there were lots of all different kinds of people working, and that the whole country mobilized behind one thing, that everyone was uniting towards this one goal. And that's something I hear a lot from people kind of as they're walking out. They're saying, whoa, I had no idea how everyone was so united. And then people say with some sadness in their voice that doesn't feel that way at all now, and how could we do that again? But they're seeing kind of the depth and also the nuance of what it was like on the home front then, and that it was a really complicated time and it was a stressful time, but there also was still hope in that darkness, that we could win this war. And if we just do these things, if we just produce more, if we just make some sacrifices. And they kept that goal in their head. And a lot of these women were working saying, I just have to help my country. This is what we're doing. And so I think people come in with a individual story of their grandma, their grandpa, or someone in their family, their uncle, but they leave with a more holistic view of what it was really like during that time and how much everyone sacrificed and how much the country changed in those very few years.
And definitely the togetherness back then was a lot more than it is now. The times have changed. Well, Cassie, I do appreciate this. I have one more question for you, if that's okay. What do you hope visitors take away after participating in one of your programs?
I hope they're inspired by the sacrifices and the courage of the people that were around on the home front and the things that they did. They all took a chance by choosing these new jobs, by moving across country, by being drafted and going off to war. So I hope they're inspired by those sacrifices that people made. And I hope they're also excited and inspired about this idea of, hey, the National Park Service, it's protecting these areas that are important for all of us in perpetuity. With the fourth graders, I talk a lot about what the National Park Service is and the idea that there's these places in this country that are so important, either historically or because they're so beautiful, that we decided as a country that they will not change. And that not only will they always be there for you to come to and your kids and your kids' kids, but that everyone's going to learn those stories. And that's extremely important. And so I think the kids are excited that they've learned the story, and also they're excited about all these other places that they didn't really know about. You know, we look at the map of the US and where all these parks are, and hopefully we get them excited to explore the ones in the Bay Area and then travel more and see the rest of the US and hear those stories and see those places.
Yes, all right. Well, thank you, Cassie. I sincerely appreciate your time and answering our questions today. This is London Patton, an intern from Rosie the Riveter, signing off. Bye-bye.